All right, Eddie. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, the Santa Claus with an E
Yeah.
at the end. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how I feel about Tim Allen anymore.
Yeah.
But the Santa Claus was good. I think not even think, I know. I've even watched Santa Claus 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then Santa Claus 4, Empire Strikes Back was a good one. Uh,
The
but
Santa
probably,
Claus prequels.
dude, I feel like not a lot of people say the Santa Claus for Christmas.
Yeah.
There's other ones for sure that are probably better, but yeah, I'll stick with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
What's
Grinch
yours?
man myself,
That's
but
fair.
I ask almost all my patients because I'm curious.
Yeah.
There a few have said Santa Claus this year,
Okay.
and so yeah, it's making a comeback.
And
Popular
you work
movie.
with kids and teenagers, so of course you're asking about
Yeah,
it.
it would be weird if if I was
Just
working with adults.
no, that'd be fine. Did you ever hear that Jim Carrey had to have like some like military like psychoanalytical person work with him on like getting the suit and stuff for the Grinch because he was like it was like torture for him. You heard that, right?
Yeah, it was like 8 hours in makeup every
Yeah,
day, which is just wild. And yeah, they brought in like a torture expert from the CIA or something to try and
crazy.
help keep him calm just so that
Yeah,
he wouldn't lose it. And he almost like quit the movie.
because he was struggling, right? Like
Yeah,
he was not having a good time.
yeah. But
That's
he made it.
crazy.
He
Yeah,
persevered. He pushed through,
yeah.
as
And
the
today's
kids
episode's
say.
about persevere.
Yeah. Today's episode's about thugging it out.
Let's go. I
Well,
love it.
hello and welcome to MMHC. We're so very happy you have joined us. If you feel so inclined, we usually say this at the end of the show, but we wanted to say it at the beginning. Give us a 5-star review if you like the show. Share this with a friend. We got our Spotify Wrapped stuff recently,
Yeah.
and we were pretty big. Obviously, the United States was our biggest country that provided us listeners, but we're pretty big in the UK. We got some Canadian listeners, some
Is
New
Australia in
Zealand.
there? Yeah, New
Australia
Zealand.
was
There
in
we go.
there,
Yep.
New
Yep.
Zealand. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was one non English speaking country, and I can't remember which one that was. It was a weird one. Did you check the Spotify Wrapped at all?
I did, but I don't remember there being. Maybe I didn't look at it that closely. Not for the countries. I can check later.
Yeah. We'll post all that stuff later. But
Yeah.
yes, today we're talking about the holidays because, yes, it is Christmas time. And around the holidays, we're often reminded that people don't always like this time of year, kind of
Yeah.
similar to the Grinch, right?
Yeah.
You know, the Grinch had been doing Christmas for 53 years and he hated it.
Yeah. I mean, we're laughing and joking, but you're right. I mean, you bring up a good point. I hadn't thought about it until we started prepping for this episode. Like, yeah, not everybody has the fondest memories of holidays, whether it's because of things growing up or things that have happened recently, whatever it is. The holidays aren't that cheery for every single person, so it's important to think about. It's important it's a good reminder.
Yeah, for sure. And because sometimes the holidays bring about a lot of trauma reminders for people, people that you have lost throughout the years, friends and family who are not there to celebrate. Plus, there's a lot of just seasonal changes too. I know in a previous Christmas episode, we talked about how a lot of the holiday traditions are trying to like fight seasonal affective disorder. Like
Hmm.
we bring a tree into the house to try and bring some nature and some pheromones into the house to try and prevent depression. We add a lot of lights because it's such a dark time of year. So, yeah, it's kind of a dark, weird contrast between like it's supposed to be this happy and everyone's loving it, but there's a hint of melancholy, a hint of
Yeah.
sadness in Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, and that seasonal affective disorder, god damn, if you're listening to this later, it's December 2025, and it is every year it's a surprise. I don't know why, especially in the Pacific Northwest. I feel like Colorado, I don't know how bad it gets there. I've heard that Colorado gets a lot of sun in general, even when there's snow. But man, Pacific Northwest, it is dreary.
Yeah.
We just got hit with some atmospheric rivers that's felt made up.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of rain, a lot of cloudiness. It sounds like we're about to get a ton of rain tomorrow. So yeah, that seasonal affective disorder is tough. It comes. It feels like it's a surprise every year.
Yeah. It really sneaks up on you, and before you know it, you're like, "Wow, why do I feel so terrible?"
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I haven't seen the sun in 3 months, so.
That's it. That'll do it. Here's your problem.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about one of the major coping mechanisms that people use during the holidays, and that
Hmm.
is drugs and alcohol. That
Yeah.
yes, it is a coping mechanism that a lot of people use because it's readily available, and a lot of people have it during the holidays close by.
Think about it too, like how much some of the substance, like I want to say the two main substances, but it's marijuana and alcohol, right? Those feel like the two main. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
there's harder substances that some people use, but the two main ones in a lot of the country are legal. Alcohol across the country, but marijuana use is way more legal than it was 10 years ago when it first
Yes.
started to really become legalized, right? With like Washington and Colorado and Oregon coming in shortly after. I think there's supposed to be something right with the current president just wanting to actually reschedule marijuana, right? Because it's a Schedule 1 right now. Does that sound right? Am I making that up? It's currently a
You know,
Schedule 1.
that's what he keeps talking about. And I
Yeah,
know Biden had mentioned it in the past too, but
yeah,
just no one seems to be doing anything about it or actually making any moves.
yeah. Well, something to consider. It may get a lot more legal here shortly, or we might make another 4 years and it's not legal again. So anyway, that's the two most readily available ones seem to be used by a lot of people, and because it's legal, I think it takes away a lot of that negative connotation with it. It's marijuana, it's alcohol, like it's legal. You see commercials for it, not so much with marijuana, but there's dispensaries everywhere. So because it's legal, it's fine to use, right? Like it's totally okay to use, but we really want to talk about it in terms of a coping skill and a coping mechanism. I know you mentioned it down the way a little bit in our script, but I'll take this one for now. The analogy of kicking the can down the road is huge. Like it's just when it comes to coping and the use of drugs and alcohol, you're just kicking the can down the road. When you're stressed out and you turn to marijuana, you turn to alcohol or a nicotine vape or something else, you're really just masking what's going on. And that's what's really tough. And I think, especially for us working with teenagers, that's what we really try to tell our clients and patients that, like, this is not a good way to cope with these things because you're under the influence, you're under the influence for a couple hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, and then it goes away. And then the problem that you were trying to avoid is still there. And then it just like, it sucks. And then you feel bad because it's still there. And then what do? You use again. And then you use
Yeah.
again. And it just turns into the cycle. It turns into a habit now that when I feel down or depressed or anxious or stressed or angry, I turn to substance. And now this habit starts to turn into a dependency. And this dependency starts to turn into a substance use disorder. And trying to kick a substance use disorder is really, really hard. An addiction, for lack of a better term. So I think that's a big reason why we wanted to talk about it. It definitely right now can be a stressful time for a lot of people. I mean, it's felt like the last chunk of time has been a stressful time for a lot of people, but this time specifically with the holidays in mind, a lot of people struggle because of the time of the year, and a lot of people then turn to substances because of it. So we just want to shed some more light on it, bring it to people's attention, understand that, or help us all understand that people might be dealing with stressors in different ways that we're not always aware of.
Yeah. I wanted to add to your point too, where I had a good friend in medical school that used to describe drinking as, drinking and partying doesn't really create any more fun. It just steals it from tomorrow. And
Yeah,
I thought that was a really good way of putting it.
that is a good one.
But yes, it is something that a lot of people do. And there's so much stress around the holidays sometimes too, especially because so many people these days with the affordability crisis, there's a lot of financial stress on people too, and a lot of pressure on parents to be able to provide that stunning, that wow Christmas for their kids. And it's hard. And a lot of parents put themselves in financial dire straits in order to provide that for their kids. And it's stressful. It's a lot on parents.
I don't know, man. I just watched a presidential address and I was told that inflation was down and prices were down and gas is less than $3 everywhere. That's bullshit. I just got gas the other day. It was about 360. So I don't know, man. I just calls it like I sees it. And right now, prices do not look down.
Maybe you just don't need 37 pencils. You need one pencil. Maybe less dolls. Not getting as many dolls this year, Eddie. I know they're your favorite. So getting back
I'll
on
try to work
track.
through that. Oh, I'm on track.
Sorry, I had to throw in a little impression there. But overdose rates tend to go up during the holidays too. And
Yeah.
according to the Sunflower Addiction Treatment Center, this can be as high as 22% increase in those overdose rates, which is a lot.
Yeah. If you think about it too, in terms of, say, during the year, someone is able to kind of just cope and manage stressors like decently well, right? Like they're not really turning to substances. But then you get to a period of time in the year where you're a lot more stressed or you're struggling a lot more and you do turn to substances. It could have been a pretty big chunk of time the last time you really used. So now your body's not as used to it as it was before, and you try to use as much as you usually do. That's when overdoses can happen. I remember too, I listened to this podcast episode from Hidden Brain. You ever listen to that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they had one called the Lazarus effect,
Mm-hmm.
where they're basically talking about naloxone or Narcan,
Mm-hmm.
and they're basically making the argument of like, if Narcan is more readily available, does that mean we're going to get a lot more overdoses? And they kind of went back and forth on it and whatever. I don't really remember the full point I was trying to make with that, but something to think about. Oh, I think they did talk about, though, in the episode they had mentioned that there did seem to be a potential for people to use more than they're used to because they know that Narcan might be available. But I think in the end they told, ultimately were like, no, people aren't using to overdose on purpose. It's still something that happens every once in a while.
Yeah, and like everything in medicine and public health, it's kind of a risk versus reward thing.
Yeah.
It's like you're probably going to save way more people with
Hmm.
Narcan readily available than you would hurt. And
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that too. But yeah, if you give, I've actually not seen this firsthand, but if you give someone who's overdosing on opioids Narcan, I mean, it's like, woo, resurrection.
Hmm.
They are right up and they're like, wait, what happened? What's going on? Because
Yeah.
it's that full opioid antagonist, so it essentially reverses the effect of the drugs.
Yeah. It's immediate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really quick, and it's
Hmm.
usually nasal too, so it's straight to
Hmm.
the dome.
Yeah.
I in my work, I see a lot of kids talking about drugs candidly, which I always love when kids aren't afraid to like talk to me because they're like, "Oh, you're an adult and you're like
Yeah.
somewhat of an authority figure. I don't know how I feel about talking to you." But so many kids say something like, "When I'm high, I don't have to think about what happened to me. I don't have to think about my traumas. I don't have to think about that stress of school," which I think is an incredibly insightful thing. Like they realize that they're essentially avoiding their problems a little bit. It gives them a little bit of that time to say, okay, I have a little time where I do not have to think about this. So I bring that up to say there are a lot of reasonable expectations why people start using drugs. It makes
Hmm.
you feel better in the short term. But yeah, like you said, with kicking the can down the road, it tends to make a lot more problems in the long run.
Yeah. I tell students all the time too, in our early psychoeducational drug and alcohol program that we have at the school, I can I can listen to the reasoning of why you have used substances, and it makes total sense. You feel shitty. You want to feel better. This makes me feel better right away. On the surface, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it more, I am an adult with a semi fully functioning brain, and I can also see a little bit into the future of like, also this is not good for you or your brain development. Like we need to cut back on this. Not because I'm trying to be a stickler or I'm mad at you or I want you to be in trouble, but because I want you to be okay when you're
Yeah.
older. I saw an article that I feel like it wasn't, I can't remember what article specifically, but it basically said teens who use marijuana by the age of 15 are more likely to have other issues later in life, whether that's cognitive issues, legal issues, behavior issues. You're just more likely, which to read it in an article, I was like, yeah, no shit. Like that kind of makes sense. But I think, I guess it's good to have the peer reviewed, like, backing of it, right? You know what I mean? Like it just kind
Yeah.
of like I read it, I was like, yeah, no shit. But I don't know. It is good to put out there.
Yeah. And I remember doing some research on this. I think it was for one of our episodes almost 6 years ago now, that like a lifetime of cannabis use can knock off about 7 IQ points. Like
Yeah.
it can really impact your cognition. So there's just a lot of different things and a lot of stuff we still don't really know about those long term effects of
Yeah.
really street drugs or a lot of prescription drugs either. That's
It's
and
true.
I listened to that podcast you sent me on overprescribing of
Yeah.
medicines in
Yeah.
America, and agree with it so much. Like we
Yeah.
are essentially trying to fix society's problems with more pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So like people are struggling, and instead of actually fixing society's problems, we're like, take a pill and try and fix it a little bit. And
Yeah.
just tens of millions of Americans, if not more, are on prescription medications. And we don't know, like a lot of the studies on these have been very short term. We don't know long term effects really all that well, which is kind of
Mhm.
scary because
It
there's
is.
tens of millions of people on these things.
Yeah. Uh, Let me shout out the episode since we like to give shout outs here and there. The
Yeah.
Journal by the Wall Street Journal on Spotify and probably Apple Podcast too. They released an episode early December. It's called "Is America on Too Many Psychiatric Drugs?" So of course I had to send it to Justin after I listened
Yeah.
to it
Yeah.
because it was an interesting episode. I didn't know that about benzodiazepines. You're not supposed to take it for very long, and then there's people who've like, I've taken this drug for 15 years.
Yeah.
What the fuck,
And there were some
dude?
old school psychiatrists that just threw benzos around like candy because they didn't really
Yeah,
know yet how bad it
yeah.
was. But there was one incident in residency where, luckily, this didn't happen in my class, but an old school psychiatrist retired and gave all his patients to the residents, and almost all of them were on like super high dose benzos. And so that entire class, their entire third year of residency was just trying to get people off of benzos, which takes
Oh,
a long time. It can take years.
yeah.
So, man, it's a mess. And sometimes psychiatrists have not had the greatest track record for actually
Hmm.
helping people.
Damn it, Justin.
I know. I'm trying to change that, man. Change
As
our
I shake my fist
reputation.
at the camera. Fuck. Oh,
We also want to give you guys a little bit of information on just the genetics of substance use. I'm sure many of you guys have heard that it is a heritable thing, it is a genetic thing. And according to the American Addiction Centers, there are more than 400 different gene locations that have been identified so far that are tied to addiction, smoking, and alcohol use.
mhm. And then many of the addiction genes are directly involved with how your brain responds to and processes dopamine, which makes sense considering our reward and addiction pathway is built on dopamine, which also makes sense why some people they try something one time and it's like the greatest thing on earth. Like it is just set off this cascading effect that's very difficult to stop. You've probably heard of people in your life too. I mean, both of us either going through college or just in our adult lives of people who, yeah, I tried it one time and that was it. That was enough. Like it just, I was hooked.
Yeah.
That's tough because you don't know that. You don't necessarily know that you're going to react in that way until it happens. You could have a potential genetic predisposition to it, but if your parents don't use anything or don't use substances or have never used or never really talked about it, you have no idea. And then you go to college for the first time, you're an adult, you go to a party and just completely can change the trajectory of someone's life without even realizing that it was going to.
Yeah. And that's why methamphetamine is so
Yeah.
addictive because it just floods your reward pathway with more
Hmm.
dopamine than you could ever have in a
Yeah.
natural setting. So, no wonder people keep chasing that feeling because it is the best they have ever felt in their entire lives by far.
Yeah. Do you remember the analogy or the phrase that people use with meth and the
Chasing the
use of it?
dragon.
Chasing the forbidden dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I remember that from my treatment of chemical dependency class. I watched a bunch of documentaries, but one was kind of specifically on Portland, which was kind of wild because when they were like showing some of the shots they were filming, I was like, holy shit, that's Voodoo Donuts. But then I think there was another one specific in meth. But yeah, chasing the forbidden dragon. They're essentially trying to get as high as they did the first time that they used meth, which is impossible. It just
Yeah.
cannot happen. Like physically, chemically, chemistry wise, it's just not possible. I can't explain why it's not possible, but it's just not possible.
Yeah. Well, you build up a little bit of a tolerance to it. You could even
Mhm.
fry some of those cells that make dopamine. So there's a couple of different chemical and neurological changes that can happen. But yeah, you're right. Unless you go through like a really prolonged period, like years of not using, you're never going to get that feeling again.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Drug addiction is it's tough. It's tough.
It
Not just on the
is
individual,
tough.
but on the families too. It's a lot. It's a lot. But let's nerd out a little bit. What do you got for me for stats and facts?
Stats and facts. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse in 2021, so this is prime pandemic time, more than
Mm-hmm.
46 million people in the US age 12 and older had at least one substance use disorder. So that's almost 1 in 5 US Americans had a substance use disorder during the pandemic, and only 6.3% received treatment.
Man,
That's
yeah,
nothing, right? Like no
that's
one is getting
yeah,
treatment for this.
yeah. Oh my god, what? I don't even want to do the math. That's depressing. If I did.
Yeah. I just read a really good autobiography called Casher in the Rye, not Catcher in the Rye, but it's
Oh,
by a guy named Moj Casher. And he was talking about how essentially he was a full blown drug addict by the age of 16.
hmm,
And he got to a point where he was tired of his life just going down the tubes. He was tired of having terrible relationships. And he had the strength to check himself into rehab, and it took a couple of different rehabs, but I'm like, at 16 to
yeah,
have that insight to say like, okay, I don't want this for myself anymore, that
yeah,
was huge. So
yeah,
shout out to Moj Casher.
yeah.
And I think, oh, he's actually got kind of like a famous wife
Let's
that a
see
lot
it.
of people have actually heard
We're
of.
looking it up.
Tasha Leggero is his wife.
No clue. I knew I wasn't going to.
Yeah. But yeah, if anyone wants a really good book about substance use in
Interesting.
young people, I've
Yeah.
actually recommended it to a few patients and parents of patients too. It's a really great understanding of what's going on in the mind of a young person who's really
Hmm.
struggling with drugs.
Yeah. One last stat, in fact, for 2021 is that unfortunately, about 107,000 people died from overdose. So this is, like you pointed out, middle of the pandemic, right? I think I've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned it in previous episodes, where the calling in of the National Eating Disorder Hotline like skyrocketed during the pandemic. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine. I don't know if they're on par with each other, but for sure, like those things shot through the roof. And I've shared it before too, so I don't have an issue with it. I mean, even my own time during the pandemic, I remember just every day was something different. Just trying to figure
Yeah.
out what the fuck is going on, having no idea, trying to go to work, not knowing what I'm doing, not seeing Kevin for a while, not seeing my family for a long time. And I remember I would get home and I basically got into this habit of like I'd drink at least a beer, maybe 2 beers. And I remember I did it for like a couple weeks and realizing like, wow, it's only 2 beers, but I feel like shit. Like this
Yeah.
sucks. And like having to stop myself of like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Like this is not. But not everybody has that opportunity, and not everyone is lucky enough to be able to just kind of stop like that in the moment. But for sure, even for me, like it was definitely something that I noticed my own substance use started to creep up a little bit. And it's not like I was excessively drinking like when we were in college or grad school, but it was enough to where I was like, this is too much. This is more than I need to be doing. So I gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I wanted to talk about too, specific to substance use, was just, I mean, for lack of a better word, like something that has been of interest to me, and the lack of the better word is the interest part. I don't know if interested, that maybe important, like something that's been impactful for me in my life. I don't know, has just been substance use in the Latino Mexican community, and maybe this has been a subconscious thing in my mind that's why I've been so like passionate and like interested in working with substance use disorder and why it's so important to me with teenagers. It's just how like rampant substance use is in the Latino and Mexican community. So I want to drop some stats and facts and then talk a little bit. First one I'll say is that about 21% of Hispanic and Latino people ages 12 and older have reported using drugs in the past year. This includes any illicit drug, and this is compared with some of the other ethnic and racial groups. There's estimates that suggest around 17% of Hispanic individuals may have had a substance use disorder in the past year. There's about 9 million people. Not surprising to me, marijuana and alcohol are the most commonly used substances. And I put for us, and I do mean for us, for the community, for the people.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Overall, nearly half of the Mexican adult population reports current alcohol use, which is about 48%, and many also report excessive drinking, which is about 35% in recent years. we look at Mexican adolescents, around 20.6% have consumed alcohol, with 13.9% reporting excessive use in the past year. Research also suggests that Mexican Americans tend to have higher rates of alcohol dependence and consumption volume compared to some other Latino subgroups in the US. Ultimately, I think what a lot of it comes down to is that in our community, alcohol use, substance use is normalized, it's glorified, it's just a regular thing. Growing up, I always heard about the first time that a family member drank. They were 6 years old, 7 years old, the first time they had a beer, right? They already had a mustache, so might as well have a fucking Corona to go with it too. And I think it's one of those things that like it's so normalized and glorified that that's where we kind of run into issues. There's always the jokes of like uh, a meme of a Latino Mexican family in Costco, and they have a flatbed cart, and it's just filled with cases of beer. You're like, oh, what's going on? Is there a wedding or something? Nope, just my son's second birthday. And it's like, haha, that's great, that's funny. I laugh at it every time too. But then it's like, damn, we do be drinking a lot. Like that's it's not even like it's a lot. And I don't know if scientifically, genetically, or whatever, Mexican Latino people are able to just drink more, but we just drink a lot, and it's very glorified. Drinking is a very central part to social gatherings. There's a ton of jokes related to it, a ton of memes related to it, but I don't know if I can really think about a gathering, a celebration, or anything that does not have alcohol in it. And this is not to shit on my family. This is not to shit on my people. This is not to shit on the community. But it's something that we should probably consider and think about. That we do normalize it quite a bit. Like it's a pretty regular and accepted thing that we just drink a shit ton. Like that's just it just is. So I feel like that's something I would like to see improved on. I don't know where we start. But it is something that I think is a concern to me and concern to other people and something that I've just probably has impacted me subconsciously for a long time and probably kind of helped steer me in the direction that I am today with my passion for working with substance use and just mental health in general with a lot of our minority populations.
Well, for sure. Thanks for talking about this stuff. And I always love it when we can make it somewhat personal. And I think that, in this country, we're always advocating that Mexican Americans and Latino people in general get help for their mental health. And I
For
think
sure.
a
Yeah.
big part of that is being able to come out and just have that basic conversation. Talk
Hmm.
about how, like, yeah, it is a big part of the culture. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, being a very white man, Wyoming, coming from Wyoming, like
Hmm.
Wyoming is a heavy drinking state. And
Yeah.
when I went to
Yeah.
college, it was a very heavy drinking school. And it was like that was what you did. Like if you wanted to go out and socialize, you drank. And as I got older and got farther away from Wyoming, I started to realize that not everyone is like that.
Hmm.
And my
Yeah.
parents told me that when we first moved to Wyoming from California, that they were like, "Wow, everyone here really drinks a lot." So yeah, it's so very culture dependent, and it's hard to understand why. I've kind of thought about like from an evolutionary standpoint, why is drinking such a common thing? And I wonder. I don't think there's any real good way to study this, but I wonder how many births on Earth are
Hmm.
due to alcohol or had some
Hmm.
involvement in alcohol. And I think
Hmm.
it really helps people lower down their defenses. It helps them be more social. It helps them connect with other people sometimes. There
Hmm.
are maybe some good things with it, but I think alcohol just helps people have more babies. And so that's
Yeah.
why, as humans, we do it all the time.
Yeah. I think too of just how much like things end up like normalized like through commercials and through like pop culture,
Yeah.
right? Like that was a huge thing with cigarettes, and it wasn't until people really started to turn on cigarettes that like, oh, now the numbers have plummeted. But
Yeah.
alcohol, I mean, there's commercials all the time. I've talked to you about the the Coors Light one from back in the day with the Silver Bullet, or the Bud Light one with the and
Yeah.
twins, right? Stuff like that. I saw a TikTok the other day that talked about the famous Corona commercial where there's the palm trees with the Christmas tree lights
Yeah.
and the Christmas lights and the beer. Apparently that commercial has been running for 30 plus years.
Yeah. Long time.
It's old as fuck, right? And these are just things that are very normalized. You go to Buffalo Wild Wings. What's Buffalo Wild Wings slogan? Beer Wings Sports, something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? So I think I would probably say that's probably a piece to it too, is the just like the normalization of it through commercials and popular culture.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like there has been more specific Latino oriented drinking commercials. Like, what is it? Modelo, like Sign of the Fighter or whatever. And like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's like, yeah, Mexican fighters and Latino. Like, it just feels like it's very much more targeted at Latinos more than ever before, too.
That Dos Equis man, the most interesting man in the world.
I
Hey, I was fucking with Dos Equis for a while just because of
know,
that.
right? Powerful advertisement.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
powerful.
yeah, yeah. It's not these advertisers and shit know what they're doing, right? They know what they're doing.
Yeah, they've got lots of market research to tell them exactly what to do.
Yeah,
So, some discussion questions. Two-parter. Do you know anyone in your personal life who struggled with addiction, and how did it change your relationship?
yeah. I think I saw this question earlier, and I had to think. I'm like, yeah, I think honestly, multiple people, and I had to
Yeah.
really reflect back and, yeah, either through like friends, family, just seeing that growing up, and now also being able to look back and be like, wow, like that was a little too much for that person to be drinking at that time,
Hmm.
right? Like that, we maybe should not have like made it such an okay thing.
Yeah.
So I guess for the first question, yes, for sure. Second thing, how does it change your relationship? I think it's hard because like you just don't always like know what to do.
Yeah.
You start to pick up on like when they maybe are versus are not under the influence. You see changes in the person. Relationship probably gets less close, right? Just because they're probably preoccupied with other things. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I think it's tough too because when you think back to like our time in college, you talked about Wyoming for a little bit, and I think back to my time in college, like we definitely were drinking an unsafe amount, right? Like that's like
Yeah.
that was bad, and there's definitely we probably could have qualified in some type of criteria for some type of issue.
Yeah.
So I think the issue drinking or the negative what phrase am I trying to use? Like the problem drinking was definitely a lot more prevalent when we were like in college and stuff than we probably would like to admit. So I think we definitely have known a lot more people who have struggled with addiction than we maybe realized at the time and could probably reflect back and just be like, oh shit, like that wasn't so good.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, yeah, I had some friends growing up who struggled with addiction, and it definitely created a wedge in our relationship.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends who I was really good friends with was hanging out with almost every single day because he was a close neighbor. Uh, we got in trouble when I was in ninth grade. We got in trouble for experimenting with stuff, and for the
Yeah.
sake of my career, I'm not going to go too far into what we were doing. But that experience
Yeah.
changed me and it made me scared. Like it really put the fear of God into me. And
Hmm.
I didn't do anything. I didn't experiment with any drugs or alcohol for the rest of like junior high school, anything
Yeah.
because of that event. So it kind of scared me straight, but he went farther off the deep end. And he it just seemed like every time I saw him, every time I hung out with him, it was like, okay, it's getting more and more. Yeah, and I had mentioned on the show that I actually found out earlier this year that he had passed away, and so that was just I hadn't heard from him in years, and when I did hear from him, he was usually just kind of talking about drugs. Like I got this
Hmm.
random text from him saying like, "Come to California, the weed's so awesome," and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Dude, I used to live in California. I've been
Yeah.
there, and I
Yeah.
don't really do that," and so like
Hmm.
it just yeah, there was a wedge in that relationship and it's it's such a strange dichotomy because on one hand I'm thinking like I would have done something if he would have reached out. I would have tried to help him, but on the other hand, when you're working with people with addiction, you understand that you really have to have some solid boundaries up or else sometimes they can walk all over you too. And so
Hmm.
a lot of conflicting ideas in my head of like, man, I wish I could have helped him, I wish I would have helped him, but I didn't know. And what was there anything I could have done? Man, there's just too many questions to ask.
No, addiction's tough, man. Like it really
Yeah.
is. I mean, it's kind of similar. It makes me think of like the eating disorder treatment. Of there's a big kind of phrase of like, if you wait for someone to be ready to change, you're going to be waiting forever, and it's really hard. You need to wanting also wanting to understand that you can't always work harder than the person, right? And that's a really
Yeah.
hard space to be in, especially if you're a caring person with some empathy or just a regular person with empathy. It's hard to feel that way. And so that's kind of to your point of like getting, not that I like the idea of scared straight, but having that one interaction or that one instance where like, oh, I never want to do this again. That's what makes me hopeful with a lot of our kids and a lot of our students and teens that we work with, is that like it's one of those like, we still have an opportunity, even if you've made a bad decision or multiple bad decisions, to kind of right the ship and get you in kind of on the right path.
Yeah. Let's jump to another discussion question here. I know we're running out of time a little bit, so let's go with, what do you think? How do we change the way our society
Mm,
deals with substance use?
yeah.
What's your big idea?
I think my big idea, I got a lot of big ideas. I think that where we run into a lot of problems is that a lot of people will assume that someone who's struggling with addiction or substance use, it's their choice, and
Yeah.
like they're choosing to be struggling so bad. And I think it's a lot more nuanced than just like a yes or no question or yes or no choice. So I think if we really started to look at it as a medical problem, as a disease, as an
Hmm.
issue, and less of like a personal choice that someone makes every day, that might help a lot, or might help at least a little bit. But it's just tough, right? Like I think
Yeah.
people's threshold for empathy is so low nowadays. Like people, it's really hard to care about other people. It's
Yeah.
really hard to not just want to focus on yourself, right? So to ask someone to care about other people. I mean, I live near Portland, dude. Like every day on the news, there's something about meth use and homelessness and fentanyl use and this and that, and people just like having zero fucks
Yeah.
about human beings. Like they just don't care, and that's really hard. Thankfully, there are still people that care, and there's programs and things that people can get help in. But yeah, I think if people were to wake up tomorrow and just the idea that like, oh yeah, substance use and addiction is a disease, we need to treat it as such and not just a singular choice that people make, we might be in a better spot. But even then, it's a tall task.
Yeah. Yeah. And I watched an interview recently with Bam Margera, the guy from
Oh
Jackass.
yeah, yeah.
And to kind of give you an idea of how hard it is to come off of drugs and alcohol, he was talking
Hmm.
about how someone asked him, like, what's the worst pain? What's the worst thing after all the Jackass stunts, after everything you've done? What was the worst? And he said, alcohol withdrawal.
Oh
He
yeah.
was like in a place where he was having to detox, and they didn't give him much help or much medical support. And he said that was by far like the worst thing that he had ever experienced. It's miserable.
Hmm.
It's hard. Like once your body gets used to that, once your body needs that, it is incredibly hard to just stop it all quickly. And it makes you very, very sick between alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, I tell kids a bunch like alcohol withdrawals can kill you,
Yes.
unfortunately. Like these withdrawals, maybe not so much marijuana use withdrawals, but other substance withdrawals can kill you. And it's really
Yeah.
scary. And there's not a whole lot that can be done like while you're doing the withdrawal. I think too, from that episode we mentioned earlier from the journal, that benzodiazepine withdrawals, that
Yeah.
sounds fucking awful, dude. Like, oh my God, someone's been taking this drug for 10, 15 years. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, just man, I think I drove with like my mouth like open the whole drive to work. I was like, what the fuck? What we did? What we're
Yeah.
doing? What? Oh,
For
yeah,
sure. Yeah. Learned in
yeah.
residency the three withdrawals that can kill you are the three B's: booze, benzos, and barbiturates, baby.
What's a barbiturate? That's a
uh
throwback word.
yeah, like phenobarbital.
Mhm.
it's like a similar to alcohol and benzos. We don't use them
Okay,
too much anymore
yeah,
in medicine these days.
yeah. Is it
Yeah.
because would you say that like like alcohol and I'm assuming benzo, they're like kind of like a downer medication or downer substance, right? That they like slow down your bodily functions. Is that what barbiturates do too?
Yeah, they all work in very
Yeah.
similar ways. They
Mm.
increase GABA, which is
Mm.
a neuromodulator, an inhibitor. It's a calming thing. So
Yeah.
that's essentially
Yeah.
how they work. They're incredibly effective,
Yeah.
but incredibly addictive.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump to some resources
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
So, if anyone needs them, here are some of our favorite resources, and it always depends on the area that you're in, and everything can be different. But here's some that
Hmm.
almost everyone listening, maybe except for you Australians down there, you can't use any of these. But we have the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, what we call SAMHSA.
Hmm.
They have a website that you can look up. Their phone number is 1-800-662-HELP. The 988 hotline is always a really good idea for people struggling with mental health, suicide thoughts, any of that kind of stuff.
Hmm. And a good reminder too, the national hotline, the 988, is similar to 911, where you call and it gets you connected to resources that are near you, and not just like connect you to someone in Alabama if you're calling from Portland. So something to remember, something to consider. Yeah. What else do we got? We got findtreatment.gov. That could be a good place to actually find a substance use treatment center. I will say, and I have to acknowledge, uh, teen and adolescent treatment can be kind of tough to find, unfortunately. I remember running into this early on in my career in the mental health clinic that I worked in. Finding a bed in a treatment center for a teenager can be pretty hard
Yes.
if there's not beds or programs available.
Yeah. Well, and I felt so bad leaving Australia out. I looked up a number. It's for the National
Let's
Alcohol
go.
and Other Drug Hotline, 1
Yeah.
800 250 015. So there you
Thank you
go,
for doing
Australia.
that. Let's go.
You're
Love
welcome.
it. So last couple things for help. I mean, we understand and we say this acknowledging that there's privilege in this, because Justin and I feel like we have these things readily available. But if you are someone who is able, talking to a doctor, finding a therapist for sure can be helpful. And really the main point that we're trying to get at is to not to keep holding it in. That's what's really hard. When people are battling and struggling with things by themselves, it's hard. It's hard to help. People don't know what they don't know. So if you have people in your life that can be a support to you, please consider reaching out. Please consider reaching out to one of the hotlines or supports that we've listed. Try not to keep things to yourself, because the more you can ask for help, hopefully the easier things can get.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you all for listening. It's December 2025. Happy holidays. We'll be back maybe in the new year. Is that going to be our next episode? What's the 14 day? We're probably not going to record on New Year's Eve, right? What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll pass it.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in January 2026. It's currently December 2025. Happy holidays, everyone. You know where to find us. We'll play it out as usual. Apple Podcast, Spotify. You can leave us a 5-star review. We'd love it if you did. Share, send it to your friends. Thank you all for being supporters. Thank you for another great year. 6 years is done. We're looking on to year 7, see what happens next. We appreciate you all. Again, happy holidays. Stay safe out there during the winter. And remember, take care of y'all mentals.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Ooh, and Hanukkah.